Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to dive into the two fundamental forces that really make or break a business. We're talking about perception and productivity. Basically, what the world thinks of you versus how well you actually get things done. This is all about the external image meeting the internal engine. So let's get right into it.
So let's start with the big question. With all the business strategies and buzzwords flying around, what actually, truly pushes a company forward? Well, it's probably less complicated than you'd think. It really boils down to two key pillars.
Okay, so pillar number one is public perception. This is everything that happens on the outside. It's the story your company tells, the reputation it builds, and the trust it hopefully earns from its customers, investors, and really the whole community. It's a judgment call people make based on what you say, what you do, and what you ultimately deliver.
And then we have pillar number two, productivity. This is the engine room. It's what's happening on the inside. It's the measure of how efficiently your team actually creates its product or service, all while hitting the quality standards you've set. This is all about how fast you can make good decisions, how tight your quality control is, and how stable your team is. So here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we'll lay out the two pillars. Then, we're going to break down how you shape perception and how you drive productivity. After that, and this is the important part, we'll connect those two ideas and then we'll wrap up with the final takeaways.
All right, section one, the two pillars of success. Let's start with the foundation. Remember, perception on the outside, productivity on the inside.
Okay, on to section two, shaping public perception. Let's really dig into how a business can try to control what the world sees. And there are three major factors at play here.
First up, and this is the big one, of course, it's marketing. This is the most direct way a company has to speak to the world, to make promises, and to build its brand identity. You could say it's on the front lines of shaping what people think.
But you got to be careful because marketing is a classic double-edged sword. On one hand, when you do it right, with consistent branding and clear, honest messaging, you build this incredible foundation of trust. But on the other hand, if you get it wrong, maybe use some misleading info or jump on a viral trend that just completely backfires, well, you can shatter that trust in a heartbeat.
And this quote, it just hits the nail on the head. A simple choice, like using the color green in your logo, can instantly make people think you're eco-friendly. But look at that fine print. It's the most important part. Only if practice matches. This is a theme we're going to see again and again. A promise without proof isn't just empty, it's a liability.
Okay, next up we have environmental factors. See, these days, just saying you're green isn't enough. It's a huge driver of public perception, and people, especially your customers, are going to demand proof.
It really boils down to this. You either earn public support with real action or you risk burning your entire reputation. Tangible things like having a clear recycling policy or a documented process for managing e-waste. That earns genuine goodwill. But if a company gets caught prioritizing profits over the planet, well, that can lead to boycotts and some serious long-term brand damage.
And the third piece of this perception puzzle is all about technical factors. Basically, the quality of the tools you use has a direct impact on the quality of your product. If you want to deliver the best results, you need the best equipment to do it. It's that simple.
And the contrast here is pretty stark. Investing in modern tools, we're talking efficient software, precision equipment, you name it, that leads to higher quality work and faster turnaround times. But if you fail to upgrade, you're risking output that just looks old, you run into compatibility issues, and you can get buried under a wave of negative reviews.
All right, so that covers the outside world. Now for section three, let's pull back the curtain and head inside the business to see how the work actually gets done. We're talking about driving workplace productivity.
A huge factor here is workplace structure. So if you look at this table, a traditional, hierarchical setup with all those layers of approval usually gives you stronger quality control, but man, decisions can be slow. A flat structure, where people have more autonomy, that allows for much faster, more agile decisions, but you do run a higher risk of things being inconsistent if that quality control isn't managed super carefully.
And you absolutely cannot talk about productivity without talking about culture. This chart, wow, it says it all, doesn't it? A positive culture leads to high staff retention. People stick around. A poor, toxic culture, you get a revolving door of employees. And that constant turnover just kills stable, consistent productivity.
So what makes a culture good or bad? Well, it's not magic. A positive culture is built on some really basic stuff: fairness, genuine appreciation, and giving people opportunities to grow. When people feel valued, they're more productive. A poor culture, though, that's often fueled by a lack of real leadership, a ton of gossip, and zero transparency. And that stuff directly leads to lower output and higher costs.
And look, this isn't just about vibes or feelings. This stuff is measured with hard data. For example, throughput is just a fancy way of asking, how much work are we actually getting done? And cycle time tells you how long each task takes. Things like a high defect rate or high employee turnover, those are direct drains on the company's finances. These are the real numbers that tell you how healthy a company is on the inside.
Okay, now for what might be the most important part of this whole explainer. In Section 4, we're going to connect the dots. Because here's the thing, a great reputation is useless if the internal engine is broken. And a great internal engine is going to stall if the world thinks poorly of you. The two have to work together. They have to be integrated.
So think of it like this. This is the path to becoming a company that people actually trust, that has real credibility. It all starts with the promise you make in your marketing. Then, that promise gets tested by your actual practices, how you treat your employees, how you treat the environment, and finally, it's all proven by the technical quality of what you deliver to the customer. All three of these steps have to line up perfectly.
So here is the crucial point. Any mismatch, any gap between what you say and what you do is where trust goes to die. If your marketing is screaming eco-friendly, but your internal practices are wasteful, you will be found out. If you promise top-tier quality, but your internal culture is chaotic and messy, the final product is going to suffer. Inconsistency is the absolute enemy of credibility.
All right, let's move to our final section and boil all of this down to the key takeaways you really need to remember.
If you remember only one single thing from this, make it this. The number one most important factor for any long-term success is alignment. The image you project to the world, your perception, has to be an honest reflection of how you operate on the inside, your productivity. When those two are in sync, that's when you have a credible, sustainable business.
And I'll leave you with a final question to chew on. Looking back at everything we've covered, from marketing slogans and environmental policies to workplace culture and technical quality, which one of these do you think is the easiest thing for a company to promise, but by far the hardest to actually deliver, day in and day out? Think about it. Thanks so much for joining me.